Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dawn Morgan, your moderator this evening for our very first No Walmart Broadcasting debate among candidates who are in opposed elections on the general election ballot. And these candidates are all from Lee County and will be speaking tonight. We would like to welcome in Jonathan Senna, who is your current commissioner for the Commission District 4. And Jonathan will answer questions this evening. We will start with the commission. And we would like to say that Oscar Astorga, who is the opponent in this race, was invited to join us. And I'm going to read what he sent. Mr. Astorga was not able to join us tonight. He had family members who have COVID-19. And because of that, he had to take a test just a few days ago, and his test results have not come back. He wanted to let everybody know that he would like to have been here, and he wishes his opponent good luck. And he said that everyone should practice safety in our daily lives in these dangerous and difficult times of the pandemic. So we say thank you for your response and your consideration, Oscar Astorga, and we will allow Jonathan Senna to answer the questions. And Jonathan will get 4 minutes to answer each question, just as he would have had Mr. Astorga been here. The only difference is there will be no rebuttal and no response. And after the 4 minutes, we will move on. There are 4 questions for the Lee County Commission District 4 candidates, and Jonathan Senna will get those in the order. Just full disclosure, by the way, the candidates were given the questions ahead of time. And I felt that this was fair as long as they all received their questions ahead of time and had the same amount of time to prepare. This way, they do know what they would like to say in response to these questions. And we will begin. After I read the question, I will then set the timer for 4 minutes, and I will indicate Jonathan to go. The first question is, what are the 3 top issues county commissioners deal with that have the greatest impact on Lee County? And your timer is going and starting now.
Well, Don, TJ, thank you so much for having us here today. My prayers are with my opponent. We pray that all turns out well for him and that he's okay and that he's safe. 4 years ago when I ran for county commissioner, there were many issues that I talked about that were important to the people of District 4 here in Lee County. But 3 stood out, and they stand out even now, 4 years later, more than ever. That's jobs, roads and infrastructure, and safe neighborhoods. In regard to jobs, we have to continue to diversify our economy. We have to support the oil and gas industry, but we also have to recognize that for generations to come, we have to attract more industry and more opportunities for the future. Recently, it was last week on the county commission, I was so proud to vote for $2.6 million. And what this was an addition to our facility, our county facility on North Del Paso. And this is in partnership with Norlee to help incentivize and move forward with our new Covenant Hospital out on the Lovington Highway. $2.6 million. And we put it toward this facility. And what we're going to do is we're going to have an addition there. It's going to bring more doctors. It's going to bring more practitioners. That's more job opportunities to the community. But even more, we're going to be able to provide better health care for the people of District 4 and all of Hobbs. This is an extraordinary thing. So many people over the years have had to go to places like Lubbock. My mom, in her battle with cancer, she went to Lubbock and had to get treatment there. But what if people could stay closer to home? What if we had job opportunities and better health care? That's what I'm working toward. Something else is we're partnering with the state of New Mexico with the CARES Act. We have over $500,000, and we're working with qualifying small businesses to actually get them $20,000 to help them move forward. We have to support small businesses. They're the backbone of our economy. We have to help them. The second thing is roads. Every year on the county, we spend $8 million to support staff and to support and pay for materials to maintain over 1,250 miles of county roads. That's outside of city limits. Inside of city limits, that's the responsibility of city commissioners. We can partner with them along the way, but we work with them. But outside of city limits, we're working to maintain and develop 1,250 miles of roads. That's so important. Why? Because mom and dad should be able to go to work every day, go and put in a hard day's work, and then come home and have dinner with their family because they traveled on a safe road and made it home safely. Something else we're doing is we're partnering with Eddy County for a massive road project. It's a major arterial road that feeds into a major highway. We're working on Campbell Road with them, and that is going to help the oil and gas industry. We're also working on Marathon Road. This is something constituents have been wanting for a long time. We're getting it done. The last thing is safe neighborhoods. As a city commissioner, I was on the committee for 4 years to bring the Corps, and that's one of the most extraordinary recreational facilities that's ever been developed in the history of New Mexico. We're doing things like that. As a city commissioner, I worked on Booker T. Washington, and we helped the park develop there. We got the splash pad there. We added to MLK Park, some great things throughout the community. And as a county commissioner, we've actually been able to bring in new playground equipment out at Taylor Elementary School. But here's the thing. What good is a great park if you don't feel safe? And that's why within the last 4 years, I've worked with other commissioners, and we've added 20 new positions to the Lee County Sheriff's Office. Now, 4 of those we're holding off right now. They're frozen because of the financial challenges, some of that this year. But we still have 16 new positions. Well, what does that do? That makes our community safer. And something else we have to do in regard to safe neighborhoods, we have to continue to partner with Chief Ortolano and the Hobbs City Police Department. We have to work with them, and we have to partner with the NAACP, people like Joe Cotton, people like Maria Susana Arvizu with the Hobbs Hispano Chamber of Commerce. We have to partner with churches. I believe little by little we can make our community safer. So again, it's jobs, it's roads, it's safe neighborhoods. I've gotten it done working with other county commissioners, and we're going to continue to work hard in these areas.
All right, just a few seconds left, so I'll go ahead and reset the timer after we address the next question. Adjusting a little bit technically there. Thank you very much. TJ Miracle is our technical supervisor tonight behind the scenes. You might or might not see him just a bit as the evening progresses. Thank you very much. If you just joined us, this is the first ever Walmart Broadcasting Town Hall debate among the races that are contested, the candidates in those races for the upcoming general election. So thank you for joining us. We will continue with your second question to Jonathan Senna, the sitting commissioner for District 4. What are the keys for Lee County to survive and recover from the pandemic and from the oil industry slowdown? Let me set the timer. Your 4 minutes starts now.
Well, I think there's several things we can do as a county to recover from the pandemic and from the oil industry slowdown. One is compassion, the second is personal responsibility, and the third is good old-fashioned Lee County hard work. In regard to compassion, I think we need to take a step back. I think we need to remember who we are. We're Lee Countyans. We're a diverse people of many cultures. African Americans, Hispanics, we have immigrants, a large immigrant population in my district, Anglo Americans. We come from many different backgrounds and cultures. And over the years, we've learned to work together. We've been through so much together. We went through the civil rights movement, segregation right here in Hobbs. We had places like Everglades Cemetery, and we went through desegregation. We went through the Vietnam era, and we went through times of even dealing with national terrorism in the early 2000s. We've been through the ups and downs of the oil economy, boom and bust. We went through the savings and loan bust back in the mid-'80s. And I think through all that, we've discovered that we need to have compassion for one another. We need compassion for those people who have gotten sick from COVID-19. We need compassion for families who have lost loved ones to the coronavirus, whether they had underlying conditions or not. These are hard times. That's challenging for a family. You go through hard times when you lose a loved one. And I remember 2.5 years ago when my mom passed away. She passed away from breast cancer. I had people from all parties, and it was beyond that. They were Lee Countyans. that contacted me and loved me and supported me and showed me compassion. And I know how much of a difference that can make. And we need that for one another. We need to show compassion for business owners like Michael Moore and Cara Beth Moore, who have lost so much in the pandemic, and their only crime is they wanted to do good business. The folks over at Casey's, we need to show compassion for them and others in the community who have lost their businesses entirely. Now look, we should show compassion for one another, and that's so important. And something that we can do in a practical sense to show our compassion is, again, working with the CARES Act money to support small businesses. The second thing is personal responsibility, and I know this is kind of an uncomfortable thing, and I'm not here to lecture anybody but myself. I'm just looking at myself basically in the mirror as I talk about this one. We don't need socialistic policies to deal with COVID-19. But personal responsibility is important. And I know that some people are just going to be more vulnerable to it, and we must take care of that, the members of our community, our senior population, and those with diabetes and things. We have to make sure we support them and provide opportunities for them to be taken care of in our community. But we also should take a personal responsibility for our own health. Many years ago, Governor Mike Huckabee said, we don't have as much of a health care crisis as we do a health crisis. And I know that was before the pandemic times. But here's the thing. I think that we need to start being responsible for what we eat, how we exercise, and how we take care of ourselves. I think we can be better prepared with anything else that comes around if we take personal responsibility. And as a Latino, in the Latino community, we have to start talking about obesity. We have to start talking about diabetes. And we have to start talking about taking care of our personal health. I think that's something important. The last thing is, I have no control over what the governor does. I pray for the governor, I pray for the president. But and I disagree at times with the governor, but that's okay. Here's the thing, oil and gas is coming back. Today we found out that GDP was up 33%. We're making a comeback. Earlier in the year, I was in Washington, D.C. with Chairperson Rebecca Long, and she announced on stage with President Trump that we had 18 million barrels of production. We were the highest in the nation for that month. Just recently, we got our numbers back. We're at 16 million barrels of production. I know the numbers, the price for a barrel of oil is down a bit, but we're making a comeback. And I believe if we work hard, if we stick together, and we do everything we can to advocate for opening up schools and opening up businesses even more in a safe way, I think that's the way to go.
All right, again, well timed, just seconds left. Thank you, Commissioner Sena. Now, the third question is, how important are party politics to county-level government positions? And you are a Republican. Let's set this for 4 minutes, and you are on the clock starting now.
Absolutely, and it's such a great question. And I think this is going to be one of the most important questions you give. You know, so many times I've knocked on doors in the community over the last several months and wearing my mask and distancing. And I've had so many Democrats come out and they say, you know what? You're the only Republican I voted for. Had libertarians and independents tell me that too. And I'm so grateful for that support. Let's unpack this. My values are my faith, my family, my love for country, and service to the community. That's who I am. That defines me. For me, I feel like my values are compatible with the Republican Party. That's why I'm a Republican. But I also feel like they're compatible with District 4. I love my community. Now, look, there's going to be times where and there have been times, I'll tell you that right now. There have been times where I have agreed and sometimes disagreed with people in my own party. There have been times with members of the community where I have agreed or disagreed with folks. But here's the thing, as long as I stay true to my values and do my very best to engage the community and represent the people of District 4, I believe that I'm doing the job I was asked to do 4 years ago. Look, there's always going to be differences among us. If we're all voting the same all the time on the county commission, or even before that when I was on the city commission, if we're always agreeing all the time, I think somebody's unnecessary. Differing opinions are good. But along the way, I discovered that as long as we're willing to have the tough conversations with people that are different from us, with different cultures, with different political parties, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent of any kind, as long as we're willing to have conversations like they used to do with Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill back in the 80s, if we can talk, we can come to the place where we find common ground and we can move forward in those areas. When I became a city commissioner, I worked hard with Carl Mackey. We talked, and we discovered our faith was similar. We discovered we wanted to both work on infrastructure, and that's how we were able to apply for community development block grants in Southeast Hobbs to get curb and gutter and sidewalks. When we talk, we can find common ground, and then we can move past partisan politics and party politics to actually serve the needs of the people.
All right, thank you, sir. Had a couple of minutes left on that. We'll move to the final question for you and ask, what differentiates you from your opponent? And this really is kind of a nice way of explaining why someone should vote for you and not for your opponent in this race. And let's start the clock at 4 minutes and go.
Again, I'm running for county commissioner, re-election to District 4. I think there's two major things that make me the best candidate for this race. Number one is I'm qualified. And number two, results. Now I'm qualified, and people who know me, you know I'm educated. I started off at Southern Heights Elementary School. I lived in District 4 right there in South Hobbs, right on South Selmon. But over time, I graduated from high school, a small Christian school that my mom started right there in South Hobbs on Marlin Boulevard. Went to the junior college for 2 years and obtained my accounting degree from University of the Southwest. And a couple of years ago, I have my master's degree in business administration from Eastern New Mexico University. I also have training in leadership at Harvard University. But even more than that is my experience. I've worked with people like I was an intern in Washington, D.C. for U.S. Senator Pete Domenici. I was a travel and personal assistant to Congressman Steve Pierce. I've worked with great leaders. I like to say that I've been corrected by the best. I worked with them. I learned from them. And even as a youth pastor in this community right here in South Hobbs, working with young people from varying cultures and working with the immigrant community, I've learned what matters most. Family, faith, hard work, experience matters. And as a young person, as a child, I was even raised right across the street in District 4, right across the street from the public library. Helped my parents run their small Christian bookstore. I learned the value of $1. I learned how hard it is to generate $1. And that helps me in what I do right now. I'm qualified. I understand that small businesses are the backbone of this community. I understand that they need our support. I understand that families in Hobbs are not looking for a handout. They are at times looking for a hand up. People want encouragement. They want to know that their leaders have their back. And I'm qualified to do that. The other thing is I bring results. As I mentioned a while ago, I work with other leaders to find common ground to get things done. Our new clinic and the well over $50 million hospital that's coming into town. I can't tell you how many Republicans and Democrats and Libertarians and Independents have told me they're excited about this. Man, they want to visit even more. They almost broke the social distancing rules to come and visit and talk about what we're doing with the hospital. That is fantastic. But we're also doing road improvements. The other day I was on Carr Lane, Robert Lane, and they said, "Man, you fixed our road here. You actually kept your word." And we worked together and we got it done. Nadine Road, we spent $1 million getting that done right for the people of that street. We're also partnering with the schools and the city of Hobbs. We gave and invested county funds toward the new CTE. Because we understand that everybody needs education, but not everybody needs an education in a traditional classroom. We also invested in playground equipment at Taylor Elementary School, and we even invested in making Everglade Cemetery a better place, a place that's more beautiful with better fencing, to honor the veterans and honor all the people who were buried there. Once it was a shameful place, a sad place, a tragic place in our history, but now it's a place where people can come together and we can honor those in the past. Another thing is public safety. We've brought results in bringing 20 new positions, 16 that are new deputies, 4 more that will come hopefully in the future, but we've added positions. I'm qualified and I've been able to get things done and bring results. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Again, just a few seconds left. And that is the fourth and final question for Commissioner Sena, your Republican candidate for District 4 for Lee County Commission. Thank you very much. And this wasn't scripted, and this was not explained, but I will allow 1 minute to simply wrap up and address everyone and make your final appeal to viewers and prospective voters.
For those of you who've just tuned in, my name is Jonathan Senna, and I'm running for re-election to the Lee County Commission, District 4. And I'm asking your vote this week in early voting, and I'm asking for your vote next Tuesday on Election Day, November 3rd, 2020. I'm asking for your vote because I'm the most qualified, most experienced candidate. I'm somebody who can work with people in my party, people in other parties, to get things done. I'm your voice. I'm someone who listens. I'm someone who will continue to engage you. I'm not here to make promises I can't keep, but I'm here to listen and work hard for you. I'm asking for your vote. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Jonathan Senna. We also acknowledge again his competitor on the ballot. The opponent in this race is the Libertarian candidate, Oscar Astorga, who could not join us tonight for health reasons. So we again say thank you to everyone. Thank you very much, Commissioner Senna. And while we change over and get ready for our next debate, which will feature public education commissioner candidates, I will talk about some of the voter information and give you some information about registering to vote and about the upcoming election on Tuesday. So we'll let TJ Miracle work the technical magic behind the scenes. We'll do some disinfecting. And Commissioner Senna, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, sir, and thank you for participating. This is the Noel first ever Town Hall debate, and we say thank you very much for joining us. If you just joined us, we are going to move on to the Public Education Commission race, and that will feature your Democratic candidate and the incumbent Tricia Reese and the Republican challenger Katie Maness. The third person in this race on the ballot is Crick Myers, your Libertarian, and he also indicated this afternoon that, and I will again read what he sent. He appreciated the opportunity to do this. He initially planned to be here tonight, and he told me, "I am sorry, due to other commitments that I cannot change, I will not be able to attend. I regret. I do wish you and the other candidates good luck." So we would like to acknowledge Crick Myers, and we will welcome to the table on my left, your right, as you're viewing, will be Trish Ruiz, the sitting commissioner on the Public Education Commission, and opposite her is Katie Maness. And we will give each of them a chance to answer questions. That setup was so fast, I didn't need to do any fill, but I will in a few minutes if I need to give some voter information. Prepared to do that. We again have, now we have 3 questions. We initially planned to have 3 candidates taking part in the debate, and that was going to take longer. So instead of asking 4 questions, I trimmed it down to 3. So Trish Reese and Katie Maness will answer 3 questions, and after you each go, Trish and Katie, I will give you a chance to do what Commissioner Senna did, and that is just take about a minute and give your summarization of the evening and your direct appeal to viewers and voters. We will start with Tricia Reese, as she is the incumbent. Then we will let you have the first question, and the first question is, how does a public education commissioner's job impact the lives of New Mexicans every day? And why do you want to do this job? Let me set the timer, and I'll tell you your 4 minutes start now.
Thank you, Dawn, for your question and for putting this together. For me, it's all about our students. They are our future, and it is imperative that anyone desiring to sit in this position have extensive knowledge with kindergarten through 12th grade educational standards, have an understanding of the requirements set forth in the Yazzie-Martinez ruling, have knowledge in the pedagogy of education, have extensive knowledge in social emotional learning, and culturally responsive systems. Students and their successes must always be at the forefront of all critical decisions made, especially now during the most challenging of times in education and in our lives. Also, having lived in Hobbs for most of our adult lives, being married, loved, and supported by my greatest partner in life, Jean, and having raised 2 children that went through the Hobbs Municipal Schools has given me an insight as to the implications and limitless possibilities that having a supportive school structure in place can have. A clear understanding of the unique challenges students face should also be a requisite, and knowing that students need support from every direction in order to learn according to his or her individual learning style. Only a true kindergarten through 12th grade educator can do this, because we are on the front lines, if you will, and we witness students' individual learning needs every day. As a counselor and site test coordinator for our at-risk campus here at Hobbs Municipal School District, where I am a proud 25-year educator, I fully understand the challenges that public school students overcome every day and work with them to address specific needs to achieve their goals of graduation. My campus works with predominantly at-risk students, and these students need a multi-directional plan in place to ensure their successes. Likewise, my experience with the intricacies of testing are a tremendous asset on the commission, as I am able to discuss this issue as we collaborate with our schools to ensure adequate testing processes and protocols are put in place and requirements are adhered to. The PEC holds a responsibility of authorizing state charter schools, and the opportunity for public education is extended beyond the traditional larger school district and environment. Charter schools are similar in design and most commonly enroll, by default, students whom are at a higher risk. The reason we as the commission do this work is in order to keep different learning opportunities available for New Mexico students. One of the many reasons that I am seeking to hold my position on the Public Education Commission is because we have witnessed many areas of growth within the charter school spectrum. Students who need or seek out other avenues of a traditional public school setting have the opportunities to follow these educational endeavors. We must always put children's needs first, and I know we do that. Also, the PEC created and implemented a vital performance framework that is a guiding document for best practices for charter schools, and it is proving to be an excellent reference tool and guidance. Having the support and faith of my statewide elected fellow commissioners has been very humbling. Within a very short time on the PEC, they elected me as their vice chairwoman, and there are other commissioners that have been on the PEC longer than I have been serving. Also, as an appointee to NIPSIA, which is the New Mexico Public Schools Insurance Authority, I was also elected by the Board of Directors to serve on the Executive Committee as the Secretary. It is important to note that when I return from meetings, I debrief with the Hobbs Municipal School District Superintendent, TJ Parks, and that has also been a benefit to our schools and students. Student advocacy is my passion and one for which I am grateful to do on behalf of our children, and I humbly ask you to re-elect me as your Public Education Commissioner for District 9.
All right.
Commissioner Ruiz, KT, if you could please move the microphones a little bit closer so we can get a little bit better sound.
Thank you for the comments. Technically, we're going to adjust those just a bit, and hopefully that will be okay. All right, thank you. By the way, Commissioner Ruiz, you had just a few seconds left. So far, the timer, everybody has beat the buzzer. Everybody has beaten the bell, so to speak, so we haven't even had to interrupt anybody. So we will continue to ask the questions. Now that Commissioner Ruiz has had a chance to answer that question, I will ask the same question of challenger Katie Manus and give you 4 minutes to make your reply. The question stands: how does a public education commissioner's job impact the lives of New Mexicans every day, and why do you want to do this job? Let me set the timer, and your 4 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Don, and thank you, TJ, for hosting this event, being the moderator, if you will, and I appreciate Commissioner Ruiz, you being here to be able to discuss some of the issues that go on with the PEC. I think it's really important because, as you mentioned, the PEC does so many different things and is involved with so many different intricacies that go on with our public education. And oftentimes, what I noticed after talking to many constituents in our district is sometimes they just don't know what the PEC does, or kind of the role of the PEC in public education in general. So I really appreciate this question, Don, that you bring up. As my opponent mentioned, the PEC has the role of authorizing charter schools in New Mexico, all public charter schools. And I appreciate you bringing in that framework that you all have developed to evaluate the public charter schools. I think that's a great thing that all schools, whether it be charter schools or traditional public schools or online schools, they need those performance criteria to be able to be measured and be held accountable in some way. In addition to the charter schools, by state statute, the Public Education Commission is also involved as the governing authority and the administrator for vocational education in New Mexico. And one of the big things that I have really tried to focus on my campaign has been vocational education here in not only in District 9, but all across New Mexico. And I think right now it's more important than ever before that we focus on vocational education, because that is where and how our economy in New Mexico is going to be able to be built back up. Right now, the numbers just came out here recently that New Mexico is really underperforming in terms of economic recovery. And one way I think that we can get back on our feet is being able to fill some of these vocational jobs. And I know right here in Lea County, they have done this with the Economic Development Corporation to encourage more workers to get into the construction industry. And I think that as a whole in District 9, there's so many different avenues that we could go with vocational education. And that's something that I'm going to advocate for us to establish a state plan for us to really make this a key priority as a PEC member. The last authority or guidance that the PEC offers is they provide and give guidance to the Public Education Department on their 5-year strategic plan. And the 5-year strategic plan not only affects charter schools, but it does affect elementary, middle school, high school, in all public schools in New Mexico. So what that really comes down to is the PEC does have a direct impact on your students' lives, even as we speak. The education that they're receiving, the PEC definitely has a direct involvement in that. And so what I would like to do is really try to improve our state. We've been last in the country for a while, and what I'd like to do is take some of the best practices from some states who are doing a lot better than we are and implement those here in New Mexico. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we will have a 1-minute rebuttal period. So Trish Ruiz will be able to respond directly to what KT Main has said, or respond as she wishes. And we will put 1 minute on the clock. And Madam, your time starts now.
Thank you, Dawn. And yes, so the vocational education is a huge part of what the PEC does. I will tell you that we are over the Perkins grant, which is career tech education. And as we know, career tech has become a viable option for many, many years, especially in rural communities such as the Southeast. We also know that locally, Hobbs Municipal School District is building a multi-million-dollar career tech facility right here in our rural communities. It is something that the PEC looks at. However, I need to make a clarification on that. Even though we are the Perkins oversight, we just look at their budget. We don't really have a lot of say in what goes on in the Perkins grant. But I do agree with my opponent that we do need to focus on vocational education. I think that our state in general is doing a fairly decent job at doing, addressing vocational education. And I know that our school, our rural schools are doing that, and there is a need for it. But the other thing I'd like to say really quickly is that it takes an educated experience, not educated, because we know that my opponent is highly educated, but it takes someone with experience. If you are going to go and advocate for children, you must be experienced with classroom procedures, what works for kids, who's on the front lines, what doesn't work, and how we need to address those changes. And one of the biggest things that I can tell you is that I'm a 25-year educator. I took a little bit of time off when I lost my legs in '98, but I have been here for 25 years on the front line, both as an ELL instructor and as an AP British Lit senior dual credit teacher, and for the last 15 years, a counselor and a test coordinator. That experience is something that is crucial at that level, because we were
Time,
working
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and 1 minute of rebuttal time, or speak as you wish. KT Manus, you are on the clock starting now.
Thank you. So just to wrap up this on how the PEC, how it's involved in every New Mexican's everyday life, and how and why I would like to be the one to do this job. I came into this in February wanting to run for this position to improve the education system in New Mexico, not only for charter schools, but for all New Mexicans, all New Mexico students, and that includes all demographics from all walks of life, even special needs. We can make a difference, and what we've had in the past decades in New Mexico really hasn't worked. It hasn't been working for us. We have been last in the United States in education, and obviously there's something to contribute to that. And so I would like to be your Republican public education commissioner, but I'm not only for Republicans, I'm for independents, Democrats, Libertarians, decline to state. Any constituent in my district I am supporting and will be there for. I've taken calls from numerous parents since the pandemic started, and I'll be there for you after the pandemic as well.
All right, thank you, sir. Time.
you.
All right. Now the final, the second question rather, to both, and it will be Commissioner Ruiz who gets to answer first. Tell us, what are some specific ideas on how our education system can survive and rebound from the pandemic and its devastating effects? The question is before you, and you have 4 minutes to answer, starting now.
Thank you, Dawn. Innovation in how schools operate needs to be rethought. With our students' needs at the forefront, yearly schedules may need to change, at least for the short term. We're going to have to enact changes that may not be for the long term, but we have to address what this pandemic has caused and created in education. We may need an additional physical space to be able to meet. Perhaps the curriculum needs to have a shift to include individualized self-paced learning models. One thing that the pandemic has brought forth is the need for learning and varied modalities to ensure that all students can be successful. On my campus, I teach on a high at-risk campus. We have many students who work 2 full-time jobs to assist in supporting the family structure. So I can tell you right now, I work with them every single day, as I've been doing throughout this pandemic and prior to. For many of those kids, online learning has been a great thing for them because they don't have a choice. They have to be able to work and help with the family income and resources. So for some of those kids, not all, but for some of them, it has proven to be truly successful, as it gives them flexibility to work and assist with familial support. Now, for countless other students, online learning has proven to be disastrous, and the need to return our children to a face-to-face instructional model is critical. We must strive to collaborate and get this done in a manner that ensures safety for all of us, for our children, our educators, our community. All students and staff must be prepared to utilize the assistance of counselors, and I am a counselor, and I have been a counselor for many, many years, and social workers. We are going to need an increasing number of people that can meet social emotional learning of those students, because they have been through so much trauma in the last 6, 7, 8 months with this different change of learning into an online learning aspect. So we will need additional counselors and social workers to meet those needs. And also we need to address the loss of learning. We know that for most of our students, I mean, I was watching something on the news this morning, and they're saying that they have been so negatively impacted. We are going to have to recoup that. And it is incumbent upon us to continue to satisfy the requirements of Yazzie Martinez. I know for a fact that the Hobbs Municipal School District has been at the forefront with most of our special needs students having met with that population since August, with very few exceptions. We need to do everything possible to tackle the teacher shortage in our querida New Mexico. With the onset of the pandemic, a greater number of educators are deciding to take early retirement. We must not lose the experience that these educators bring to the classroom. And we must contact legislators. And I have to say this, I know that budget is going to be one of the most challenging things that we look at in the coming years because of the pandemic, because of the decline in oil for that short time. And I understand that budgeting will be a huge issue. But the other thing that we have to consider is how we're going to be able to recover and assist those kids that had a loss of learning. The Secretary of Education, Dr. Ryan Stewart, we meet with him bi-weekly. And in one of his addresses to us, he was telling us, and I know that he went before the Legislative Education Study Committee as well. He said that it's going to be upwards of $1 million if the legislature approves an increased 25 days of learning next year for our elementary students and 10 days for secondary. We're going to have to figure out a way to address those needs because our kids have got to recoup the loss of learning that this pandemic has brought on
Time,
to
madam.
them.
Thank you. All right, and we'll give Katie Manus the chance to also answer the same question. What are some specific ideas on how our education system can survive and rebound from the pandemic and its devastating effects? And your 4 minutes are on the clock, sir, starting now.
Thank you, Don. I think early on, since we've had the pandemic, I came out as a proponent saying that we need to have options. And I appreciate my opponent mentioning the same thing, having those options, because as she mentioned, the difference between in-class versus online versus the hybrid modality, some students, they'll be better in online, some will be better in person, and some will be okay with that hybrid. But I think what the big thing to push is to have that in-class option. Because right now, as many Lee Countyans and some of these other counties in our district, we aren't able to have that in-class education experience for most of our students. And I can tell you, I've been called by several parents, Melissa being one of them. Melissa, her daughter, Melissa lives in Clovis, and her daughter was having some troubles. She's a special needs student, and in the Clovis Municipal Schools, she is not able to get the in-class education that she needs. Her daughter has autism, and it's really been a difficulty for her. She called me and spoke to me for about 10 minutes, just telling me her situation and asking me, well, what can we do about these devastating effects that it's not only having on my child, but also children across the state of New Mexico. Las Cruces Public Schools just released some data earlier this week that students are failing at almost double the rate that they were in the previous school year. Now, if we take that and apply it to the other school districts in our state, it's really concerning to see that so many students are failing. This is at a 40 to 50% failure rate of our students, and it's not the students to blame, and it's definitely not the teachers to blame either. It's the forcefulness of us having to move to an online modality that frankly just doesn't work for most students. I was called by Mary that lives in Lee County, and she had told me that her kids, they've been spending 12 hours a day doing online instruction. Now, 12 hours a day for a 10 or 11-year-old, that's just unacceptable to be at a computer screen and to have that fatigue at that age. No child should have to be at a computer screen for that long at that age. And so we need to make some changes to how we deliver our instruction. And I think to take up the last minute of our time, we need to focus on early pathways to success, to be able to have those who are in high school be able to pursue a degree in either elementary education, general education, to be able to receive their teaching certification at an earlier age, still have their training, of course, still have the hours that they need to have for student teaching, but to get them on that career pathway earlier and to ensure that more of those teachers stay in New Mexico. I know that several teachers that have received their education at some of the colleges throughout the state of New Mexico, they move off to other states. And so I think it's important that we keep those who are being educated in New Mexico at the New Mexico colleges to stay in New Mexico as teachers to fill that shortage. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. And now we will enter rebuttal period with Trish Reese having 1 minute to respond directly to KT Manus or to speak as she wishes. And 1 minute is going on the clock starting now, ma'am.
Thank you, John. I do agree that we need to return all our students to a face-to-face learning modality, but I also want to ensure that we're doing that in a safe manner for everyone. We are experiencing a loss of learning, and that's why our Secretary of Education is already working on a plan for next year, upwards of $1 million to address that loss of learning. Again, 25 days for elementary kids and 10 days for secondary kids to address that loss of learning. And the other thing I'm going to say is this. So one thing that needs to be very clear, because I know my opponent said that we've been 49th in education, and while that is true, I think that it needs to be very, very clear that the PEC does not have the ability to enact legislation. We are not legislators. We are not House of Representatives. We are not senators. What we do is we are under our purview are charter schools, the Perkins grants, and how we best work with kids to make things successful for them and for their futures.
And time, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And KT Manus will have 60 seconds to rebut directly or to speak as he wishes. And your time starts now, sir.
Thank you, Don. Trish, I'm glad you brought up the aspect of policy recommendation. That is, even though I know that it may not be something that the PEC is actively doing, under the NMSA 22-2-2.2, it is under the purview that they advise on the 5-year strategic plan and that they advise at least every 2 years. So while it may not be that there is direct written legislation that the PEC writes, they can be forceful in the sense of how they advocate for certain policies to be implemented by the Public Education Department. To end, I'd just like to say thank you for those who are watching right now to the debate, and I would appreciate your vote. My name is KT Manus for PEC District 9. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. And one final question to both of you, and that is, how important are party politics to being a public education commissioner? We will start again with Commissioner Ruiz, and your 4 minutes start now.
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you, listeners. And again, I am your current sitting Public Education Commissioner, Trish Ruiz, and I want you to know that party politics should never, ever be a factor, an influence, or interrupt serving our students. It should never be about party politics. It should be always what is about our kids. It should always be about education. It should always be about educators. It should always be about what's best for students. Politics should never enter that conversation when it comes to kids, because guess what? When we're up there, we are advocating for kids, for what's best for them. How can we make things and their learning processes easier? What can we do to help them achieve goals of graduating? I work on the secondary level for Hobbs schools. That is one of the biggest things that I work with an at-risk population. And so what we do, what I do, never, ever, ever crosses that thought. That thought never crosses my mind about, oh, well, party politics here or there. It is never about that. It is here because I am here to serve you. I am here to serve our kids. I am here to serve education. I am here to serve New Mexicans. I am here because I love our querida New Mexico. And it is always going to be about education for me. Again, I am a 25-year veteran, having taught ELL to kids that come from all other different countries, and senior AP British Lit to being a counselor and a test coordinator now. That experience is absolutely critical because we are going to be working with making decisions for charter schools, which is it's a traditional public school. It's just a different kind of a setting. It's a charter school. By definition, most of the kids that are at risk go to those schools. And if you do not have that experience behind you, if you don't know how to write, if you don't know what goes on in class, how can you write a CAP? How can you know how to write a corrective action plan if you're not even familiar with what students do every day? If you're not familiar with how you have to meet those needs? I can tell you right now, I always work to meet students' needs that have special needs. But I will tell you, since 1998, when I had my accident and lost my legs, it brought a whole different vision to me that I still probably needed to work on that. It is about kids. It is never about the party. It is about doing what is absolutely in your heart every day when working with those kids, even when you're not. Because even when I shut my computer off, now that we're Zooming, those kids are always in my heart and my mind, always. They never, ever go to a back burner. It is about doing what's best for our kids, and nothing should ever come between that. It is about servicing all those kids, ELL kids, kids with special needs, kids with autism, kids that have physical challenges, kids that have social emotional learning problems, kids that have physical disabilities, kids from all different walks of life, because guess what? They all still, regardless of where they come from or what they're dealing with as a challenge in everyday lives, they still are entitled and deserve, and it is incumbent upon us to ensure that we are providing adequate services, adequate educational services for our children.
Time, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we will ask the question of Katie Maness. We've, of course, it was remiss of me not to identify Trish Reese as a Democrat, but that is said, and Katie Maness is the Republican candidate. And the question is, how important are party politics to being a public education commissioner? And your 4 minutes start now, sir.
Thank you, Dawn. I agree with my opponent that party politics should not play a part in public education in any way. However, as most of you who are watching and who will probably watch this debate later are highly aware of in our current situation, politics has played a part in our education in New Mexico, especially during this pandemic. And it's unfortunate to say so, but that is just the reality that we live in. Party politics has caused some counties to be shut down while other counties are able to remain open for public education in person. Despite the facts and the overwhelming evidence that students do not pose a risk of spreading COVID-19, and despite students not spreading COVID-19 to teachers. So, with that being said, while party politics should not come into play in education in any form or fashion, they have, and I believe that action, of course, is going to be taken because of the party politics that have come into play, which is unfortunate. But beyond the party politics that has happened, and I'm sure that most of you are aware of, the sad thing is that the students that have been affected by the partisan politics that have been played with our education, these students are really being affected mentally, physically. I mean, the NMAA, New Mexico Athletic Association, students are not able to play fall sports. That is definitely hurting their physical well-being as well as their mental well-being. All of this to say that party politics has played a role in our education within the last 8 to 9 months, and I think that needs to stop. One student that I'm aware of in Chavez County was walking to school, and each day the student would sit outside the school to be able to have internet access, to be able to take their classes online, which should have been in person, but unfortunately due to partisan politics, they were online. And some students, especially in these rural counties, they don't have access to internet like in bigger cities, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that John, who did have to walk to school and have to sit outside his local school, 10 or 11 years old, it's unfortunate that he had to do that and sit there day in, day out to be able to do his online coursework whenever he didn't have the availability, the access to internet. And so the thing that I think distinguishes party politics from having differing values is the fact that I come with a set of conservative values that whenever I bring that to education and my view of education, my philosophy is that we have limited federal government involvement. We have parent choice from the fact that we have charter school options, online education options, in-person, hybrid, whatever option is available, that we have that, quality control initiatives, and then accountability and transparency. Now, I've ran my campaign on accountability and transparency as one of the big factors, and I would appreciate your vote early or on November 3rd. Thank you.
And thank you, sir. Now we will have rebuttals, and Commissioner Ruiz will have 1 minute to directly rebut anything that Mr. Maness has said or to speak as she wishes. And your 1 minute starts now.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm going to just, share with you a few of the reasons why I think you need to retain me as your public education commissioner. I have the support and faith of the entire Public Education Commission. There are, representatives from across the state, all different parties, and they've all supported me. I will tell you that. They've shown that support by electing me as their vice chairwoman. I've also been Citizen of the Year for the Chamber of Commerce. Was an executive board member for Faith in Action. I'm on the HMSD COVID-19 Reentry Committee, on the leadership team, the ESAC committee, the Inviting Schools Committee. I've been the SAT Educator of the Year. I have been a 2-time selection as the most influential educator for a distinguished honor grad. I have been a Project Success Director. I, of course, am your Public Education Commissioner. I'm an appointee, or was, for the Legislative Finance Committee. I've also been an appointee for the Legislation Education Study Committee. I am appointed to NIPSIA. I am the chairwoman of the COVID-19 Task Force for NIPSIA, and on the Townhall Board of Trustees. I have also been a national social justice trainer.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, and 1 minute to directly rebut or to speak as you wish. Mr. Manus, your time is starting.
Thank you, Don. And Trish, thank you for stating all your qualifications. You are definitely highly qualified for this position. I just want to now speak to the voters of District 9 and say thank you for the opportunity that I've had to meet several of you during the campaign. Thank you for voting for me if you voted early. And if you don't have a great idea of who I am yet, just a little bit of background on myself. I was born and raised in Hobbs, graduated from Hobbs High School, received my bachelor's degree from Texas Tech University. I then came back to Hobbs to start a catering business, which I've had for the last 7 years. And during that time, I pursued a master's at UNLV and then completed a doctorate at Texas Tech University. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And now I will allow both of you, as we did with Commissioner Sena, to take a moment and directly appeal to the viewer and a possible voter and make a summary or anything that you would like to say directly. And you'll have a minute to do that. And your time starts now, Commissioner Ruiz.
I'm Trish Ruiz, your Public Education Commissioner, asking you to please vote for the only traditional 25-year veteran K through 12 educator on the ballot. Experience is paramount in serving on the PEC, as we do not serve any post-secondary education. We must ensure our children's educational needs are represented by a true educational advocate. I ask you to vote for our New Mexico children, to vote for our educators, to vote for support staff, to vote for education, to vote for proven leadership and experience, to vote for meeting the needs of all students, to vote for a proven educational and student advocate, to vote to re-elect me, Trish Ruiz, as your proven, committed, and experienced public education commissioner. A vote for Trish Ruiz is a vote for our students in schools. And remember, your vote is your voice. Su voto es su voz. Gracias. And I want to thank TJ and Dawn, and of course, my opponent, KT. I've known him for a long time, and I am just proud to call him a friend. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And your summation and direct appeal, KT Manus.
Thank you, Don. My name is KT Manus, and I am running as the Republican candidate for Public Education Commission, District 9. And as I was concluding some of my background earlier, I just want to, again, say thank you to all the voters who have come out, early voted. I know that we have record turnout in our state, and I just want to thank you for your effort for coming out and doing your part to make your voice heard in this election. I think as far as the PEC goes, what I would just like you to know is that I'm going to fight for education and improving our education system if elected as your public education commissioner, both in vocational education and for all public schools and all students in New Mexico. I would just like to thank you, and I would appreciate your vote in the next couple of days for early voting or on November 3rd, and I wish you the best. Thank you.
And thank you, sir. Thank you very much, both of you, Trish Reese, KT Manus. Thank you for attending and providing thoughtful and thought-provoking answers to these questions. And while we do a little technical switching and change up and get ready for our Magistrate Court Division I candidates to come up, I will say thank you again to Trish Reese, Katie Manus, and give you a little bit of voting information about early voting, which, by the way, will be held in Eunice at the Eunice Community Center tomorrow and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tomorrow and Saturday, the 2 days for the early voting at Eunice Community Center. Early voting, meantime, does continue in Hobbs again tomorrow and Saturday, the 31st, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Lee County Events Center and at the Lee County Office Complex, 1019 East Bender. You also can vote early at the courthouse in Lovington tomorrow from 8 to 5 and on Saturday, the 31st, from 9 to 6. As far as registration, it is still allowed. You can register to vote, but you must do so at the clerk's office in the courthouse, and you can do that tomorrow from 8 to 5 or Saturday, the 31st, from 9 to 6. The only restriction is that when you register, you must then cast your ballot. You must then vote. So you'll be able to register in the county clerk's office and then go downstairs to the basement where the voting is done at the courthouse. You will be able to do that tomorrow and Saturday only, and then if you do not vote early, you will have to wait to vote on Tuesday for the general election. The polls will be open at 7 a.m. The polls will close at 7 p.m. If you are in line to vote at 7 p.m., no matter where you vote, you will be allowed to stay and cast your ballot, no matter how long the line is and no matter how long it takes. If you do not know where your voting convenience centers are on Tuesday, then you can go online and check at a number of places. You can go online and get more voter information, more registration information, and more polling information through the Secretary of State's website. That's www.sos.state.nm.us. You can also contact your Lee County Clerk's office, and that number is 575-396-8619. And you can also go online to www.leecounty.net or to nmvote.org. Again, lots of questions can be answered online or by phone, and there is still time to vote early if you want to vote early at the Eunice Community Center tomorrow or Saturday, and you want to vote in Hobbs at the Lee County Event Center or the Lee County Office Complex, or if you want to vote in Lovington at the county courthouse, you can do so there. Again, remember when you're voting, turn your ballot over. There is material on both sides of each page of the ballot, and we want you to be able to cast your ballot. Also, if you have not turned in your absentee ballot yet, you can do so at any of the early voting locations while they're open, and you can do so at the Lee County Clerk's office in Lovington through Saturday. If you hold on to those absentee ballots longer than that, you will have to turn those in at any voting convenience place on Tuesday or at the Lee County Courthouse, of course. All right, I think our setup is complete, and we are ready to welcome up our candidates for Magistrate Court in Division 1, and we have Judge Nakama Minkowitz, who is the sitting judge, and we have the challenger, Clipper Miller. So if, lady and gentlemen, if we could have you both approach and take your place at the table, and we will start this portion of our program. Again, thank you for joining us. If you just tuned in, if you've just joined us, you are watching the first ever Noel candidate debate, a Townhall candidate debate for this general election 2020. And our format for this part of the program is a little bit different. Because of the canons that govern judicial candidates, it's a little different for anyone serving on the bench or running for positions on the bench. And after discussing the matter with both Nakama Minkowitz and Clipper Miller, it was decided that a true debate style or question and answer format really is not in keeping with the canons and with the canon of ethics. So we instead allowed each of them to prepare a 5-minute presentation in which they will summarize their background and why they're running for the position, why they want to be elected to the bench. And we'll allow them to do that, and then we will allow an extra minute at the end after each has taken their 5 minutes to then present a summation as we have the other candidates for this evening's program. We will allow Judge Minkowitz, as the sitting judge, the incumbent, to go first, and then Clipper Miller will go second, and then we will have the 1 minute summations. All right, you have 5 minutes on the clock. Judge Minkowitz, you are on the clock starting now.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for all the efforts that you put forth on our behalf in putting this evening together, and thank you for this opportunity. Good evening. My name is Nechama Minkowitz. I am the current judge of Hobbs Magistrate Court. As many of you know, I was appointed to the bench following the sudden passing of Judge Labrie. Before the bench, I was a public defender here in Hobbs for 2.5 years. In that capacity, I saw why our crime and recidivism rates are so high. It is no secret that our community is riddled with mental illness and addiction. I've seen firsthand that the bulk of our criminal cases are related to those issues. Our jails and prisons are turnstiles. Individuals go in and out and in again. There are programs that are started in other cities that have proven to reduce crime and recidivism. And as a public defender, I researched, I made connections, and began taking the necessary steps to implement those programs in our community. As an attorney, a public defender, and now as judge, I am experienced in the courtroom. I am familiar with the court system from the perspective of witnesses, of victims, and the accused. I have extensive experience working with victims as I was part of a clinic dedicated to assisting victims of human trafficking. My career before law school also helped me prepare for this job. I first started out as a teacher, and I realized how important a good education is for our children and our students. I believe that the most important component of education is to give children the tools to take on responsibilities, to remain motivated, and most importantly, to be able to think for themselves. That experience led me to homeschool my 5 children, as well as other children in the neighborhood. My homeschool soon blossomed into a full-grown school. My school provided education for indigent children whose parents could not afford private school, and my school was funded through the grants that I wrote. After my children were grown, I graduated from law school with a Juris Doctorate, and I received a Master's of Law in Trial Litigation. As many of you know, the bedrock of the judiciary is the ability to be impartial, no matter who comes before you. I can assure you, in running this campaign, I sought no favors, no gifts, no finances from our community. This was a deliberate choice I made in order to assure that there will be no question that anyone who appears in my courtroom, no matter if they're there for a traffic ticket, landlord-tenant dispute, small claims, they'll be treated with the same fairness, dignity, and respect. I have no agenda. No one can claim my time, my honor, or my integrity. Judges are nonpartisan by duty. So tonight, I am asking you for your vote. And I'm asking you to vote for the person best for the job and not just for the party. I am asking you to vote for the judge that best embodies fairness, experience, and the motivation to serve the betterment of Hobbs. I look forward to continuing as your magistrate judge, faithfully serving the duties of the office while keeping the health, safety, and well-being of our community at the forefront. Have a wonderful evening.
And thank you, ma'am. After Clipper Miller makes his presentation, I'll give you 1 minute to, again, do a summarization of your message and make a direct appeal to voters. And Clipper Miller, we'll give you the 5 minutes, and your time starts now, sir.
Good evening, and I just want to say thank you, Dawn and TJ, for putting this together and for allowing us to be a part of this. This is a great opportunity. For those of you that do not know me very well yet, yes, Clipper Miller is my real name, and it is on my birth certificate. I was named after my great-grandfather, an immigrant, John Clipper. I moved to Hobbs, America the summer before my senior year in high school, and I graduated a proud Hobbs Eagle. I married my high school sweetheart 26 years ago, and we bought our first home together, where we still live right here in Division 1. Our 2 children were both born here in Hobbs. My son is a firefighter EMT. He is married to a school teacher. And my daughter is currently pursuing a Doctor of Audiology in school in Mesa, Arizona. Having lived in Hobbs for nearly 30 years, I have a unique understanding of our community's needs. I have developed a reputation for being fair and committed to equal justice under the law. I began my career as a police officer here in Hobbs, and I have served continuously for over 21 years. We need judges who know the law, who can rightly divide truth, and who will hold offenders accountable. Each step that I have taken in my career has helped me to prepare for this role. During my tenure as a law enforcement professional, I have completed over 3,000 hours of additional training. Moreover, I've gained decades of real-life, practical, hands-on experience and an extensive knowledge of the New Mexico criminal statute and court procedure. I will take the decades of lessons that I have learned building cases with me as I transition to a new role of deciding cases. For the undecided voters who have yet to approach the ballot box, here are some things that you should know about me. I have the knowledge. Beyond my degree, I have accumulated over 3,000 training hours in the areas of criminal and traffic statutes, legal update, case law, search and seizure, and numerous other areas in legal and law enforcement topics. Through my years of training, I have gained a firm understanding of New Mexico criminal statutes. I understand concepts such as reasonable suspicion, probable cause, and I can readily identify the elements of criminal and traffic offenses. What is even more important than the book knowledge, however, is the practical application of that knowledge. And to that point, I have the experience. I have committed the last 21 years of my life to providing quality public service to the citizens in our community. I've worked my way up from the bottom, and I learned how to apply the book knowledge in real-time scenarios on the street. I promoted through the ranks from sergeant to lieutenant, where I became increasingly responsible to manage and oversee other law enforcement professionals. This is significant because the role of the supervisor in law enforcement is to review the reports, the criminal complaints, citations, warrants, search warrants, in order to ensure that all the information was presented in an unbiased, accurate, and thorough manner. By demonstrating proficiency, reliability, leadership, and dedication, I was able to achieve the rank of captain. I know Lea County, and Lea County knows me. I've earned an excellent reputation in our community by consistently acting in a fair and unbiased manner. As magistrate judge, I will remain unbiased as I listen attentively to each case and make decisions based on their individual merits. I will serve, just as I have in the past, with compassion and ensure that the rights of the accused are protected. However, I am a firm believer in personal accountability, and I believe that actions have consequences. I am fair, but firm. I have heard many concerns from our citizens regarding violent offenders being released from custody with little to no bail. As magistrate judge, it is my duty and it is my responsibility to protect the rights of the accused, but it is also my duty and responsibility to protect the rights and the safety of our community from criminal offenders. I will work to streamline court processes. Too much time is wasted while cases get repeatedly delayed, costing time and taxpayer money. I want better for our community because our community deserves better. I desire to work with stakeholders in order to streamline the court processes and improve efficiency. I will always remember that it is my role to serve. Servant leadership has been the bedrock of my career, and in my roles as deacon at the church and former vice president of the board at Option Incorporated. That principle will remain as I serve our community as magistrate judge. It is an honor to be a part of this process and to be considered for such a responsibility for such a time as this. I do not take it lightly. Please vote for Clipper Miller, Magistrate Judge, Division 1.
Thank you, sir. Neither of you used the entire time, but I will give you a chance to make your direct appeal and give you a minute each to make that appeal. And we will start with Judge Minkowitz.
Hi, my name is Nechama Minkowitz. I am currently the judge in the Hobbs Magistrate Court. Before taking the bench, I was a public defender, and in that capacity, I learned what our community needs to be healthy and safe. I would like to take this time to thank all the people in this community that spoke to me, that that shared their concerns about the homelessness, the mental illness, the drug use. The officers that came to the court to tell me about how they need a new fresh eye to deal with situations and how they're tired of the same old situations going on over and over again in our system. A vote for me is a vote for a qualified, experienced, fair, impartial judge that is coming that came to Hobbs with new fresh eyes, wanting to create a better for all of us in this community. I would appreciate your vote today or on November 3rd. Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am. And Clipper Miller, you will literally have the last word this evening and a minute to do so. Thank you. Your time is going.
Thank you again, Dawn. You know, throughout my career, I've conducted investigations into numerous crimes, and I've applied my knowledge of criminal code and case law in actual situations, assessing the available evidence and taking decisive action either to release or to detain or arrest. I've petitioned the courts for and obtained search warrants and arrest warrants successfully, and I've testified during the prosecution of many of these cases in the various courtrooms here in Lee County. As a supervisor, I ensured that subordinates conducted their work in a lawful, professional, and ethical manner. I've reviewed thousands of citations, criminal reports, and arrests to ensure that they contain probable cause and that they accurately detailed the elements of the charged offenses while ensuring that officers acted within policy and the law. I've had some opportunity to reach out and talk to people in the community, and I'm very thankful for the people who have reflected on past experiences that I've had with them throughout the time here. And I've also been very appreciative of people who are willing to ask the hard questions, and I hope that I can address those concerns as your magistrate judge. Again, thank you for your vote either this weekend or on November 3rd.
And thank you, sir. Seconds to spare. All right. That concludes our program. We say thank you very much again, of course, to Judge Nakama Minkowitz, to Clipper Miller, and thank you very much to our earlier participants, to Trish Ruiz, to Katie Manus, and to Jonathan Senna. We say thank you very much. It's been an enlightening evening. We hope that our participants enjoyed the process, and we hope that you have enjoyed what they have told you. And maybe you have learned some things, and we certainly hope that you will continue to participate in this very important process of educating yourself as a voter, as a local resident, as a Lee County person, and that you will take the time to vote and to encourage others to do the same. On behalf of all of Walmart Broadcasting, our entire staff who worked hard to put this together, on behalf of TJ Miracle, working behind the camera this evening, we say thank you very much, and very much to our sponsors as well. We say thank you to the Boys and Girls Club. Definitely thank you, TJ, for reminding me of that. We are here at the Boys and Girls Club in downtown Hobbs, and they graciously allowed us to come in and take over their big room for this event tonight, and we definitely appreciate everyone. So again, thanks to our participants, thanks to our sponsors, thank you very much, and we just say get out and vote. And if you have any questions about doing that, please contact your Lee County Clerk's office. You can go online to leecounty.net. You can also find answers at nmvote.org. You can call 575-396-8619. And finally, we just say thank you again and good evening, and thank you for watching. We appreciate you. Good night.